The Galactic Empire recorded its victory in cold numbers. 77 million humans annihilated in 3 months of pacification. Entire colonies reduced to fused glass by orbital strikes. Refugee convoys vaporized before they cleared Atmo. Mining stations left spinning silently around dead moons. No burial, no survivors, no pity. The Empire's admirals congratulated each other on efficient extermination. To them, humans were vermin, primitive, chaotic, too emotional to resist superior order. The victory reports celebrated precision. Not once did they consider whether a primitive creature could learn to bite back. Patrol logs began to show anomalies. Deep space stations went dark without distress calls. Couriers missed checkpoints. Wrecked ships drifted through void with no crew, no cargo, only symbols carved in the hull plating. Crude human letters spelling "hunt us" and "we hunt you." Imperial investigators called it coincidence. Sabotage by rebellious subjects, pirates seeking attention. The Admiralty dismissed it as nonsense. The statistics of extermination did not lie. Humans were finished. Yet the reports kept coming. In the slums of conquered worlds, whispers spread of a figure the Empire could not track or name. Survivors called him the Human Hunter. Though he did not stalk prey for sport, he was vengeance wrapped in strategy, appearing without warning, disappearing without trace. Convoys carrying fuel or medical supplies for the fleet burned in silent space. Dockyards vented atmosphere overnight. Garrison commanders woke to find entire outposts gutted, bodies lined up with their weapons placed neatly at their sides, a message that the war was not over. Every strike bore no signature, except its precision. This was not random chaos. It was a campaign. The Empire sent elite cruisers to sweep fringe systems. They never returned. A search frigate found one drifting hull. Split open from bow to stern, compartments ruptured as if something feral had torn its way through. The internal cameras showed nothing but the aftermath. Claw marks, shredded bulkheads, armored troopers slashed apart angles no blade could explain. Imperial scientists argued over what weapon could have caused such carnage. The debate ended when more patrols vanished, each leaving behind the same telltale scars. Human resistance cells that had been isolated and scattered now moved in uncanny unison. They struck not where the Empire was strong, but where it was weakest. Remote supply lanes went dead. Resource shipments failed to arrive. Colonies loyal to the Empire were suddenly starving. Attacks avoided frontal combat. They were surgical, designed to cripple infrastructure rather than win battles. Someone was directing these cells with perfect timing, as if seeing every Imperial weakness in advance. The first confirmed ground engagement told the Empire they were facing something entirely new. On the mining world of Ralphus, a regiment landed to crush a rumored human hideout. Instead of civilians with rifles, they faced swarms of armored beasts, low to ground, fearless, tearing through soldiers in a frenzy of claws and teeth. Blaster fire and grenades slowed them, but did not stop them. The creatures attacked with suicidal ferocity, ripping apart machinery, shredding armor plating, dragging Imperial troops screaming into tunnels. By the time reinforcement arrived, the regiment was gone, base structures melted with acid, landing pads unusable. The creatures left no bodies to study, only shredded armor and bone fragments. The humans had named them honey badgers, but these were no natural animals. Engineered to survive in vacuum, bred to fight without fear, they were living weapons. The Empire could not understand how primitive humans controlled them at all. Fleet High Command dismissed the Ralphus incident as a fluke. Feral bioforms, contained and irrelevant. That confidence lasted only weeks. Reports from 5 other planets described the same phenomenon. Human raiders with impossible shock troops appearing out of nowhere, sabotaging defenses, then vanishing. Starports guarded by heavy battalions were overrun by enemies barely waist-high. Barricades designed to withstand armored vehicles collapsed under living swarms. Surveillance drones recorded the aftermath, but rarely the fight itself. Equipment failed, power lines cut, comms jammed. The Empire's superior technology meant nothing if it could not see or predict its enemy. As pressure mounted, the Empire doubled its patrols, ordered mass arrests of every human survivor, and executed entire settlements to send message. It had the opposite effect. For every atrocity broadcast, another Imperial outpost fell silent. For every massacre, another supply fleet burned. No human broadcast claimed responsibility, yet Imperial soldiers swore they heard messages echoing through hacked comms, a calm, cold voice repeating one line: "You hunted us. Now we hunt you." Cargo manifests began to vanish from Imperial records. Weapons depots emptied overnight. Fuel intended for destroyer fleets never arrived. The Admiralty blamed internal corruption until its own inspectors were found dead. The marks were always the same: carved symbols on bulkheads, a word scratched into steel with something harder than metal: Hunter. Every Imperial response was predictable, and every time it was anticipated. Ambushes met no resistance because resistance had already moved elsewhere. The pattern revealed itself too late. Humans were not striking blindly. Someone was waging a war of calculation. The Empire's governors debated using planet crackers to erase entire human sectors, but logistics failed before the order could be carried out. Haulers full of antimatter disappeared. Ships sabotaged. Their crews found floating in space. Fear infected the fleet. Discipline wavered. No one wanted to escort human prisoners. No one wanted patrol sectors marked by hunter symbols. Fleet captains asked for reinforcements that never came. The more the Empire cracked down, the faster its grip slipped. Entire border systems went silent, not conquered by humans, but abandoned out of terror. Then came the first direct message. No encryption, no attempt to hide its origin. A transmission played across every Imperial channel simultaneously, a human voice without accent or emotion. "You killed 77 million of us. For that, we will take everything from you. You thought we were prey. You never asked what hunts predators in the dark." The Admiralty panicked. Their war was supposed to be finished. Yet now they were facing something worse than rebellion. A species that learned and adapted faster than any algorithm, guided by a commander whose tactics made no sense to machines but perfect sense to human minds. The Empire realized too late that fear is a weapon humans wield as well as any blade. The slaughtered millions were not the end of humanity. They were the fire that forged its wrath. By the time High Command convened to discuss countermeasures, entire Imperial sectors were cut off from central supply. Transports refused to fly. Garrisons deserted in the night. The Admiralty's final mistake was assuming this was a human insurgency seeking peace or territory. It was neither. It was a hunt, and the hunter had only begun to close in. Imperial strategists swore the attacks could not be coordinated. Humans lacked the numbers, the infrastructure, the command networks. Yet evidence said otherwise. Every strike fit into a pattern invisible until too late. Fuel depots emptied on the same day that deep space communications relays were cut. Munitions freighters exploded hours before key offensives. Warp lanes collapsed under simultaneous ambushes. The events lined up like dominoes, each fall accelerating the next. This was not rebellion. It was precision warfare guided by a will that anticipated every counterstroke. Forces loyal to the Empire tried to retaliate, sweeping the frontier in overwhelming numbers, but the hunters' war had no fronts. Human ships scattered into asteroid belts, shadowed Imperial convoys without being detected, and struck only when their prey was isolated. Attack groups appeared where patrol schedules were weakest, often seconds after Imperial encryption changed. Somewhere, someone knew the Empire's internal codes before the Empire itself did. Data caches showed signs of intrusion by hand, not algorithm. The hunter did not rely on machines to predict the enemy. He thought like one of them. Rumors spread through the fleets of impossible allies. Footage leaked of armored swarms overrunning garrisons. Creatures smaller than a man but faster than any combat drone, shrugging off plasma fire and clawing through power-armored troopers as if tearing cloth. They were engineered, gene-spliced, and combat-trained, relentless to the point of madness. Soldiers who survived ground encounters spoke of eyes that never blinked, jaws that never let go. These were not drones and not beasts. They moved with human purpose. They moved with the hunter. Imperial countermeasures failed. Sonic deterrents, gas attacks, incendiary barriers. None slowed the swarms for more than seconds. The creatures tunneled under fortifications, tore through bulkheads, turned ambushes inside out. Defenders who fired on them burned ammunition faster than resupply could arrive, and still the things kept coming. Entire battalions fled fortified worlds, leaving armor and weapons behind. The hunter collected every scrap and turned it back against the Empire. Commanders began abandoning their posts rather than face human raids. Crews sabotaged their own ships to avoid escort duty in human sectors. The Empire labeled such cowardice treason, but the tribunals meant nothing when no prisoner lived long enough to reach them. Human cells intercepted prison convoys with surgical timing. Officers captured alive were broadcast screaming, not in plea, but warning to their comrades, stay away from human space or vanish. The hunter's voice cut into secure Imperial frequencies again, calm and surgical. You enslaved our kind, burned our worlds, slaughtered 77 million of us. You thought we had nowhere to run. You never considered we'd come for you. The message was always followed by silence, and then a disappearance, a listening post, a garrison, a fuel convoy, gone as if it had never existed. Fleet High Command deployed trap fleets with bait convoys, hoping to draw out resistance forces. The hunter accepted every bait, but never in the way they expected. He'd hit from angles no defense grid covered, turning Imperial ambushes into slaughter pens for their own troops. In one engagement, for destroyers guarding an ammunition freighter were disabled in 90 seconds by gravity well mines chained to asteroids, forcing them into each other's firing arcs while human raiders slipped in and stripped the freighter bare. No trace of the attackers remained. The Honey Badger army appeared in full during the siege of Velker 3, a fortress world the Empire believed unassailable. Imperial surveillance saw nothing until the outer shield collapsed from within. Swarms poured up from subterranean tunnels, seeded months earlier by human infiltrators. Automated defenses burned thousands of creatures, but tens of thousands more tore through the shield generators and communication spires before Imperial troops even deployed. When fleet reinforcement arrived, they found the garrison massacred and every weapons cache emptied. Not a single living enemy remained to capture, only claw-score metal and a single card word, Hunter. Panic spread through the ranks. Fleets diverted to protect core systems, leaving the frontier naked. Trade routes fell silent. Colonies revolted not out of loyalty to humanity, but from fear of imperial collapse. Merchant guilds refused contracts in human sectors. Weapons dealers sold secretly to both sides. Every imperial decree to restore order only highlighted how little control remained. The Admiralty demanded a decisive response. Hundreds of warships launched into human-controlled space to root out resistance once and for all. The hunter did not confront them head-on. He bled them, cut their supply lines, forced them to burn fuel and munitions faster than they could be replenished. He struck repair yards behind the front, then fuel depots, then medical ships. Wounded soldiers died without aid, ships starved without power, morale collapsed without rest. Every imperial advance felt like marching into quicksand. When the Empire finally cornered what it thought was the main human fleet in the Yaris expanse, it committed overwhelming force. Hundreds of warships against what appeared to be a ragged formation of human raiders. The trap closed, but it was not the humans who were trapped. As the Imperial Armada advanced, hidden gravity well projectors dragged capital ships off course, colliding them with their own escorts. Mines disguised as derelict cargo vessels detonated among supply ships. Electronic warfare flooded every channel with phantom fleets, fake distress calls, and ghost sensor images. By the time the Admiralty realized the formation they were chasing was a decoy, human raiders were tearing through their logistics in another sector entirely. Imperial survivors called it the turning point. In 40 hours of running battle, 30 capital ships, hundreds of escorts, and millions of tons of critical supplies were annihilated. Human losses were negligible. The hunters' forces never stayed long enough for retaliation. They hit vanished and reappeared light years away. Imperial pursuit fleets returned empty, their morale shattered. Across the galaxy, stories multiplied. Colonies whisper the man who commanded death itself. Alien mercenaries once loyal to the Empire refused contracts against humanity. Admirals stopped sleeping. Their predictions failed every time, their schedules meaningless. What they called random raids were revealed as the outline of something worse, a methodical map of empire collapse drawn in blood. The empire's leadership debated suing for peace, but no human envoy appeared. No conditions were offered. The hunter did not negotiate. His only message was silence, broken by raids that grew bolder every month. First it was outposts, then garrisons, then fortified worlds. Nothing the empire defended survived. And behind every human strike, the engineered swarms followed, consuming everything in their path, fearless, untiring, unstoppable. The Empire's supply network fractured faster than its admirals could issue orders. Worlds that once thrived under Imperial control fell into darkness as transports failed to arrive. Governors who demanded reinforcements received silence, or worse, a whisper on their secure channels. You are not forgotten. You are next. By the time Imperial fleets mobilized to protect core systems, the hunter had already carved through the outer sectors like rot through bone. He did not seize territory. He left nothing for the Empire to retake. Alien allies who had trusted Imperial might withdrew their support. Mercenary guilds stopped taking contracts, fearing human retribution. Every convoy suspected of aiding Imperial forces vanished into deep space. Refugee ships bound for neutral zones arrived stripped of their Imperial escorts, their crews shaken by the sight of distant human vessels shadowing them without firing a shot. The hunter waged war not only with weapons but with fear, reducing Imperial morale to ash long before the fighting reached their capitals. Then came the coordinated strikes. Instead of isolated raids, entire sectors collapsed in hours. Hyperlane beacons went dark at the same instant shipyards detonated from within. The hunter no longer had to lure Imperial fleets. They refused to leave orbit, terrified of moving into his web. The engineered swarm struck simultaneously on 12 worlds, overwhelming planetary defenses designed for armies, not feral creatures that ignored pain and fought until the last heartbeat. Fortress garrisons collapsed under waves of teeth and claws that chewed through alloy doors like soft earth. Soldiers barricaded themselves and broadcast surrender messages no one answered. By the time Imperial rescue fleets arrived, nothing lived but the swarms, already gone, leaving behind nothing but silence and carved steel warnings. Fleet High Command held emergency councils in secret, moving their meetings from capital spires to deep-buried bunkers, but the hunter's voice reached them there as well. Every order you give, every ship you move, I see you. I know you. You cannot hide from me. Some commanders resigned rather than face his promise. Others defected outright, surrendering fleets to save their families. The Empire answered with executions, but each killing only fueled more desertion. When an admiral's flagship was found adrift with the crew slaughtered and the officers hanged in their own command deck, Imperial forces finally understood that rank and power offered no protection. As Imperial resistance faltered, the hunter revealed his strategy. He did not fight for negotiation, nor for survival. He fought for erasure. Every bastion of Imperial authority was struck in a pattern leading inward, carving a path toward the Empire's throne world. The Honey Badger army became his vanguard, ripping apart defensive perimeters that had stood unchallenged for centuries. Imperial scientists tried to build weapons to neutralize them, but nothing worked. Burn them, blast them, vent them into space. They fought until their bodies failed. And even dying, they bought the humans the second they needed to finish their work. The final march to the capital began without warning. Communications across the core collapsed in synchronized failure. Spaceports turned to fireballs as human saboteurs triggered explosives planted months earlier under the Empire's nose. Defense fleets scrambled to orbit only to find their drives disabled by viruses too primitive for Imperial AI to detect. Code written by hand, line by line, impossible to anticipate. By the time the Emperor's palace guards prepared for ground assault, the sky itself was falling. Human drop pods rained down like meteors, carrying soldiers and swarms in equal measure. The palace walls were designed to repel siege cannons, but not claws that tunnel from below and soldiers who fought with weapons stripped from the Empire itself. The hunter walked through the ruins of the capital as if he had been there before. Imperial troops who saw and described no insignia, no face visible beneath his helmet, no banners or flags to rally under. He did not speak to them. He simply advanced while the swarms cleared his path. The last line of Imperial defense broke, without firing a shot. When the gates of Throne Hall fell, the Emperor and his council stood waiting, expecting to bargain for peace, to buy time, to save themselves. They did not understand until too late that the hunter had no terms. What happened inside the palace spread faster than any imperial broadcast. The hunter executed every member of the ruling council live, transmitting to every world still within reach. No words, no speeches, just the sound of an empire's heart stopping in real time. When it was done, he faced the emperor and finally spoke. 77 million. You thought we would forgive? You thought extinction would break us? Humans do not break. We hunt. His blade ended the rain in one motion, and the swarms howled in triumph as the palace burned. With its leaders dead, the empire crumbled overnight. Core fleets turned on each other. Governors declared independence. Trade collapsed completely. In the power vacuum, humanity did not claim thrones or territory. They took nothing but vengeance. Worlds where massacres had been ordered were purged. Shipyards that built extermination fleets were dismantled to their foundations. The honey badger army left claw marks on every monument to imperial pride, a scar that no species would ever forget. The true identity of the hunter spread in fragments. He was not an admiral, not a warlord, but a man who had once been enslaved by the empire as a military experiment, trained to kill for them until they slaughtered his family during their purge. He had turned everything they taught him back against them, binding scattered human survivors into one will and one weapon. His swarms were not beasts. They were symbols of a species that refused to die, engineered avatars of human rage that could never be leashed by fear. In the aftermath, alien species across the galaxy watched humanity with new eyes. They saw a race that had been nearly erased, yet rose from the ashes stronger, more united, and more dangerous than any empire. No treaties were signed. No alliances were needed. The message was carved into the ruins of the throne world itself. Hunt us, and we hunt you. The honey badger army vanished into deep space with the hunter, leaving only stories and terror behind. No one knew where they went. Some believed they returned to rebuild human worlds. Others whispered they waited in the dark, preparing for the next threat. What mattered was that the galaxy learned its lesson. Humanity did not ask for power. Humanity did not ask for war. But when threatened with extinction, they became the nightmare of empires. The hunter had shown them what they were capable of when united by vengeance. The galaxy would never make the mistake of underestimating mankind again. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, a voice whispered through cold void and dead channels, promising any who would listen that the hunt was not over.